tonight. We've got Lucas Freeman as our guest. We're going to talk about the launch of the Swappa Boneyard, and we also have Chuck Haynes and Fred Scholl with us, as per usual. Alvy's actually out tonight taking care of some business, but we miss you, Alvy, and we hope to see you back next week. All right, guys. Like I said, we got Chuck Haynes, Fred Scholl, and Lucas. Chuck, why don't you say hi? Introduce yourself.
Evening, all. I'm looking forward to discussing my gear live here later on in the show. So, any of you guys in the QA, feel free to start firing those questions out.
That's right. And Fred, tell them what's on your head today. Tell the people in the question and answer what they should be listening for.
Hey, here we go. I've got a new headset here. This is courtesy of the good folks at A Audio. This is their new Elite HD headset with active noise cancellation and bass boost. Just arrived yesterday, and there'll be a review on the site of this coming up in the not too distant future as well. And let me know how it sounds out there.
Awesome. And Lucas, we've got you're the first Glass Explorer we've had, and you also got another very exclusive new toy in today. Why don't you tell everybody about that?
I do. So, of course, you mentioned the glass side, but I am now a new owner of a 1+1. So, since this morning about lunchtime, exciting stuff. I know we're going to talk about it a little more deeper into the show, and then of course admin at Swappa, so I'll be talking about the new Boneyard and kind of going in detail with it. So exciting stuff.
Great. All right, guys. Well, it's going to be a little bit more of a laid-back show tonight since Cliff and Alvy aren't here. So while the cat's away. So let's. Why don't we start with? Let's see. There's one thing I wanted to touch on since we mentioned the 1+1. I'll just start with this, so just to ease into the night. I don't know if anybody else has realized this, but I've been thinking about this ever since the invites really started to flow, and that's that everyone on Google Plus who really has an opinion about the 1+1 and kind of swore off of it, the hype beast, and due to the hype beast, and they've all kind of changed their tune now that it's actually available. So we're all these people. I don't know how many. I can count at least 5 people, 10 probably, including myself and Lucas here, because mine's on the way. I ordered mine this morning. Who have said over and over, "I will never buy this phone because this, and this." And we weren't too public about it, but we had our opinions. And now, of course, that it's available, we're like, yeah, well, you can't really beat that price for that hardware. But what do you guys think about that? I mean, just the fact that the hype beast ended up winning out over, our little ideals that we were stealing.
I know I can speak on it. My big thing, of course, I've been a big Nexus user for a long time. I jumped from the N5 up to the Sony Xperia Z2. I guess it was about 3 weeks ago. So a struggle I had is getting an AOSP-based ROM on the device. The ones that are out there, the development is low due to Sony making it so difficult to get such a great device. And the development that is going on, you've got no working camera, just problems that I don't want to have to deal with being used to a Nexus and flashing and just going. So that really turned me down. So then getting the invite with the OnePlus, it was just seeing the price, spending nearly double on that Z2. I just couldn't pass up. It's just for such great hardware, and I say that after less than 12 hours with the device. I'm truly impressed. Oppo is definitely showing where they have influenced it. I've had both Oppo devices, the Find 5 and the N1, and it shows in this device where they did have the influences and using their custom build and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a wonderful device. So it definitely made a fool of me because I now own one. So.
How does the size feel in comparison to the Nexus 5, out of curiosity?
So yeah, of course, a little bigger. I feel it's balanced well, which really makes it's a big deal for me. Of course, I have massive hands, so the N1 was a device I actually was pretty comfortable with. So the size is not too big of a deal for me. It's definitely a little more cumbersome. So.
Okay. Well, Chuck, what do you have to say about that? I mean, you haven't expressed much interest in buying a 1+1, but I don't even know. Can you get a 1+1? I don't know what carrier you're on.
I'm actually on Verizon, so no. I kind of live. Well, unfortunately, I live literally in the middle of nowhere. So it is Verizon or nothing here. I think the closest AT&T tower is, probably a couple hours away. So, and T-Mobile's non-existent. So I don't know. I guess I'm curious. The thing is it's always hard to judge something as soon as it's come out and as soon as people finally get their hands on it, because it's kind of like a new girlfriend. For the first 2 weeks, it's great, but things kind of settle in and you kind of get used to the norm, and then you're off. You're looking for your next thing. So I want to come back in a month from now and see, are people really, really as excited about it a month from now as they are right now? Because look, I mean, let's face it, we're all tech junkies. We want the latest, we want the greatest, and it doesn't matter how awful it is. It's awesome because it's the newest thing. So let me see what it is a month from now, and then I'll make my decision.
Being a glass explorer, I can second that whole notion. So.
Fred, do you have anything to say on the matter? Have you been keeping up with the hype?
Well, I've been watching the hype, but I too am locked into Verizon at the moment, so it's not the phone is not an option. But drinking in the hype is certainly an option, as as we know.
Well, see, to me, and this is one thing I really felt was unfair. Now, I have my own reasons why I've been a little peeved at CyanogenMod, but that's neither here nor there. Now, that was my initial reason, and really only reason that I cared, and originally thought I wouldn't end up wanting a 1+1. But the situation's changed for me a little bit, and unfortunately, I'm a hardware fanatic. I need the best hardware out. Well, I want the best hardware out, and that's literally the only phone in my price range that has the kind of hardware it has. So what I think was a little unfair when starting out with the hype is all of the people who initially got the first review units said this is unacceptable, and I get it. They didn't. It's not finished software, so I understand why they said it's not acceptable, because Samsung or LG and no other manufacturer would release a device with software that was buggy. But one, it's not released yet, and they're just they're really just rewarding people for waiting patiently, and I don't even know if you'd say rewarding, since it's still an invite. You still have to pay for it. But I thought that was a little unfair. It's still CM, it's still CyanogenMod, and anyone who downloads the CyanogenMod ROM and installs it on their phone will make little sacrifices to have the next, to have that version. They'll make little sacrifices of Bluetooth might be a little wonky here and there, or GPS might not lock sometimes. We'll make those tiny little sacrifices and not really think about it. I mean, I was on Samsung Galaxy S from the Vibrant to the Galaxy S4. I never had a ROM that worked fully, because I was on AOSP the entire time, and I never had a ROM that actually fully worked, except maybe on the Vibrant. But what do you guys think about that? I mean, is it fair to really compare it to CyanogenMod to like Samsung and their TouchWiz, or HTC in their sense?
It's really not, because let me ask you, was the first Android phone any good? I mean, maybe, but let's face it, no, not really. Was the second one good? Yeah, it improved upon it a little bit. So I mean, this is CyanogenMod and all theirs really first foray into the real world. I mean, because when you're not paying for a product, the fact that something doesn't work, it's acceptable. You're not paying for it. It's open source. But now that people are paying for it, they got to go through those growing pains of, we're paying for it, we expect something a little bit better. They've got to work on their supply chain. They've got to work on their bug fixes. I mean, it's a growing pain. I mean, I really actually like some of the features that CyanogenMod has been adding. The privacy features. I've actually been tempted to run CM on my M8 just for some of those features, even though it's half broken. So, I think that they're on the right path. Are they there yet? No, but they're on the right path.
Yeah, and the huge advantage. So I had the Oppo N1, really the first Cyanogen phone, and when it launched, you were kind of forced to stay on the build that was on there. They didn't have nightlies available immediately. It actually took a couple of months before it was available, and that was a big sore spot for me. So with the OnePlus One, they're doing it right. With Cygen's done it right. You've got the CM11S build on there out of the box, but I was able to pull down the latest nightly and run with it. So that's huge. Being able to run off newer revisions and newer features with just unlocking the bootloader and going. So that was kudos to them for that.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's see. So that we talked about the OnePlus One hype beast. I'm still thinking that a lot of people, including myself, including you, Lucas, we all kind of made ourselves out to be hypocrites with this because we developed those harsh opinions immediately, when we heard that the phone was going to release. And but we can at least say that they've done a much better job than they did with the CyanogenMod Edition N1. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting mine in the mail. Definitely looking forward to seeing what else comes from them and what kind of development's available for it on XDA for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing too is price point. Price point. I mean, what was it? Didn't Samsung just say that they're down 25% last quarter? Isn't that what they came out with? And you see HTC is actually on the rise again. Yeah. Why is HTC on the rise again? The M8 is part of it, but the HTC has come out with these lower end phones, these very nice price point phones in these emerging markets. I think what we're going to see, especially in the next year or two, is price point is going to be everything. As carriers finally basically turn off the carrier subsidized phones, people aren't going to pay $600 for a phone. The average person is not going to pay $600 for a phone. Right. They want $300, maybe $199. I think is the sweet spot for a phone. Yeah. So that's where like this phone and the Moto G and the Moto E are going to start winning out over the high end phones. Is people want a phone that works, but they don't want to pay $600 for it.
Aside from the software coming directly from Google, I was just chatting with Lucas about this. Aside from the software coming directly from Google, the OnePlus seems to beat out the last Nexus device. It's almost like they were trying. It's almost like they took specifically the price points of Nexus, says, all right, $50 cheaper and better specs, and then even the cheaper one is along the same lines as the next version of specs of what we would expect to see from another Nexus device, but it's still the 16 gig and it's still $299. I mean, it's just you really can't. I think that with this coming out, we're going to see way less developers getting Nexus devices, especially since so many people are able to just pull AOSP and just kind of make it work on whatever device they have. And the developers are doing that more and more. Like, I have several developer friends who are just like, oh yeah, well I'm running my own version of such and such ROM that I fix the bugs myself, and they're just don't have time to put it up and support a thread for it. But that's my thing. I think that we were talking about the Nexus line isn't actually dead, but in my opinion, the spirit of the Nexus line is gone with the Google Now launcher. They've added on now. They may as well be called Google phones rather than Nexus phones because they're not just a development. They're not just a development tool anymore. Right. Go ahead.
The important thing to note too is that CyanogenMod is based off CAF, the Code Aurora, not ASOP. And they are really, really starting to diverge. If you ask any kernel developer, they hate developing for both of them because they're just different enough that it's a pain in the butt.
Yep. I know Franco, he does a lot of the kernel development, and that's one of his gripes.
Yep.
I did not know that. But yeah, I think that we'll see these devices, hopefully more devices like the OnePlus One, because I would hate to see them have the monopoly on low-end, unlocked, no-contract devices. Because before, the Nexus has literally been the only option, unless you wanted, and I don't mean low-end, I mean low price. Unless you wanted a low-end device, the Nexus has been your only option with the current specs. So hopefully, we'll see more of that. But Blue kind of dropped the ball on me not upgrading their. I had to get rid of the XL because they didn't update the software. They weren't going to update the software to KitKat, and it's their highest end device. So I had to, and not even past 4.2.2, which means when I get an Android Wear, I'm not going to be able to use it. So that's why I jumped ship for OnePlus. It wasn't an option for me. I have to be able to review the device when it comes in.
Yeah, you just gotta, with all the wearables and everything, you've got to have that low power Bluetooth. I mean, you just got to have it. So yeah, it's a bummer that they've not jumped and got that out yet.
Yeah, when I switched to the Blue, I all but stopped using my Qualcomm Talk and my Martian notifier because it's not worth cutting my battery life by 2 or 3 hours out of the day because I'm running Bluetooth all the time. Before we go forward with let's do this next. How many people do we have watching? We got a couple people watching. Let's talk about the Boneyard. We recently at Swappa recently introduced something new, and that's why we have Lucas on today. So Lucas, why don't you just give us a quick rundown of what the Boneyard is about and what we can expect to see there?
So we launched the Boneyard, and of course it's for buying and selling mobile items that are not eligible for sale on the Swappa's main marketplace. So this includes broken devices, flash devices, accessories, parts. It's just us trying to improve on the market there. I know me personally, I've repaired phones before, and it's just a nightmare. So bringing the Boneyard, we're hoping to kind of fill that gap. The big differences between Boneyard and the main Swappa site is we've got, there's no buyer or seller fees on the Boneyard. Another huge plus is it's user moderated. So we're working on tools, and there are some there now, but working on tools where you can moderate if you see something that you think, that really just doesn't look right. You can flag it, and it'll eventually, get to us, and we'll, take a look. I'm definitely open for any questions that we have for that.
Is there anything coming in right now? Doesn't look like it. Do either of you guys have any questions about the Boneyard? I mean, I don't know if you've been on there and looked around yet, but it's a little different than Swappa. Do either of you have any questions about what you can do on there?
No, I didn't know there wasn't any user fees. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the big perks. If you've not checked it out yet, definitely go take a peek, because there's some really cool things going on. And you talk about there's some great deals. I know I've had to restrain myself from purchasing a couple things. So.
Yeah, that's the reason I don't frequent the site as I might like to.
Yeah, try to work for them. Tony knows the struggle.
Well, try being the guy with the least disposable income who works for him, and then what happens is one of your admin moderators will buy every phone you want right out from under you. Lucas, no, he's never bought a listing out from under me, but he does turn up with the devices I want. We have very similar taste in phones.
Yeah, I have an addiction. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
I'll admit it.
How many phones have you switched to and from since working for us?
So I guess it's going on a year actually recently. So I'm thinking at least 7, at least. So that's ranging from Nexus 4, Pine 5, Nexus 5, Oppo N1. I'm forgetting some, I'm sure. The OnePlus One, the Z2. Yeah, so I definitely have an issue. Yep. Yep. So I still have the Moto G. That's a great little device.
Yeah. So just to mention this, because we didn't mention this with the no seller fees, one of the things we want with the Boneyard is we want right now. I mean, you come to Swappa once every unless you buy your carrier subsidized phones, you might be coming to Swappa once every couple months, or when you see a new phone, you want to check out the price of it. But really, it's just when you're looking to upgrade your phone or someone in your family's phone. So we wanted to give users a reason to come back to Swappa. So the no buyer fees right now for lower. I mean, we can't really do much of a fee on lower end stuff. Like I sold a shell for the Galaxy S3 replacement shell. I sold it for like $10. So you can't really do much fees on that. But we may end up adding fees for the higher end devices. If we see an influx of those. But right now the Boneyard is pretty much for accessories and broken devices and things that we just want. Obviously we've had so many people not complain, but ask us if they can sell devices with cracked screens, and it still works. But Swappa's mantra is no junk devices. So now we wanted to give people a place to get rid of their junk devices.
So do you guys have something in place to prevent someone from like saying, well, let me just go to the Boneyard and sell my iPad 4, for example, or is that just part of the user moderation stuff?
If you're willing to only take, what's the limit, Lucas?
I believe it was 250 or 500. I'm not sure.
You can't set the price high enough to make it worth trying to circumvent the fraud prevention measures. And I'll tell you what, we don't see a huge amount of fraud on Swappa, but it's about equal buyer and seller. So you can go over there at your own risk if you want. But I don't think. And the other thing is people are better moderators than moderators are. We have so many tattletale users who will go through listings and just say this is like they'll just comment this phone has a cracked screen and it's not mentioned, and we got to cancel it. So we have a lot of users who do that, and we've had users with the Boneyard who come through and say, "Is this allowed? Is this allowed?" and just point at it. So,
yeah. I had a user do that to me one time. He said, oh, it's unlocked by some Chinese middleman. There's some concern about Verizon locking those phones. I'm like, I've never once seen anywhere Verizon worried, people worried about Verizon shutting off phones just because you unlock it from some guy. Yeah. So I can imagine you guys probably have a bunch of users like that. I was a little bit frustrated when he commented. I'm like, I said it was unlocked. I told you exactly how it was unlocked. No, I'm not worried at all about Verizon shutting my phone off because Verizon doesn't care.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the big thing with the Boneyard is also making a better experience for buying things like this. Getting away from eBay and the fees that come with that. I mean, when you're selling parts for a device, you don't want to have to worry about all the fees that come with it. That's no fun. So.
Yeah, eBay will take a substantial amount. No, I'll be honest with you. When I first found out about Swappa, I've used Swappa quite a bit. I've probably sold maybe a dozen devices on Swappa, and I've probably bought 4 or 5 devices off of there. And yeah, it's really easy to know that it's the $10 fee. That's it. Nice and easy. I mean, the whole system is really been extremely nice and easy to use. So I've been a huge fan of Swappa since I started using it.
I can go on a personal thing with eBay just recently. I sold a ZenBook on eBay. I don't use eBay, and it just doesn't happen. But I had hit the end of the line, unfortunately, with this laptop, and I sold it, and I learned that they have the where they hold your money now. I didn't have that. I'd never experienced that. So my device was shipped, and the guy was tinkering with my my laptop 5 days before I got paid for it. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I should go back and mention that no, you're not actually allowed to try your luck on the Boneyard if you don't want listed on Swappa. One of the rules, the first rule of the Boneyard is that you if it's eligible for sale on Swappa, you're not allowed to list it on the Boneyard. So somebody will catch it and somebody will flag it and it will get deleted, and so it'll be a waste of your time. But some of the cool things. Tell them how we do images now and the lack of post approval and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So, on the main Swappa site, we of course have the approval steps, and that delays it a little bit. But of course, that's when you're selling a $high device, you want that extra layer there. So with the Boneyard, we do not have the approval. We're not stepping in there. So you list and you go, and instead of messing with an uploader, we actually pull from Imgur or Imager. So that's that's a huge plus. I know I'm a big fan, so that makes it a whole lot easier just to import the gallery link or your album link, and you're done. So.
It's pretty cool. Let's see, and so make sure there was no points we forgot. Okay, just as we've been talking about it, Fred, I've seen your face light up a couple times. I'm lying. I haven't actually seen that. I've been looking. Does anybody have any more questions about the boneyard? Because really, it's really our answer to eBay and Amazon and what we haven't been able to do on Swappa before. Because we're about mobile technology now. We're not just about. We started out as just Android phones, and then we added iPhone and Windows Mobile Phone, and now we've got iPads and tablets and Windows tablets. You can even buy the really expensive Surface Pro 3s, and if somebody's selling them. So we're trying to encompass as much mobile technology as possible. But I just want to make sure that we have as much explained about it as possible. So Fred, do you have anything?
Not at the moment. I'm actually peeking at the boneyard in the background here and kind of sniffing out what kind of goodies may be available there without risking the mortgage payment and so forth.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you have questions, anybody out there, hit us on help@swappa.com. You're very good chance you're going to get Tony or me on the email side. So we'll definitely address anything. Any questions you have, we'll be glad to take.
Cool. I'll certainly take you up on that as I get a little further into things here.
And the main thing I want to plug about the boneyard, I don't want to say the main thing, but one of the big things I want to plug about the boneyard is everyone has a drawer of devices. And and you can sell dumb phones there too now. You can
right, that's a big one.
All your flip phones, and there's no fee. So if you just want to get rid of them, and you don't want to go find a place to donate them, or you just want to make a couple bucks on them, you can go and sell your old flip phones on there, working or not.
Nice.
Yeah, so everybody has that junk drawer of just devices and phones and chargers and cases. I have a couple OtterBox cases that when my wife upgrades her phone, we'll have no use for. And those are $60 cases, and I might be able to give them to somebody for $10 or $15, and that'd still be worth it to put the extra couple bucks in my pocket. So that's what we mainly just want. We want people to know you have something right now on your desk or sitting next to you that you can go and create a listing for, and it could get sold.
Yeah, I'm actually sitting here thinking to myself, I got a lot of crap on the desk I could put up there and probably make a few dollars.
Exactly. You know what? That's one of the crazy things. I wasn't able to sell my phone for as much as I want, so I just started listing some junk I had on the boneyard and one other thing on Swappa, and that was able to push me over the amount I needed into my PayPal account. So
yeah, that's the thing. It's another man's treasure, and I sold 2 Bluetooth devices that I haven't touched in a year. It was a little mini keyboard and one little Moga remotes, I think is how you say it, and it sold the boneyard in 2 days. So that's great. A couple bucks, enough to go out for a nice night out on the town with the wife. What more can you ask for?
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, working for Swappa has really changed the way that I know for a fact it's changed the way that Lucas and some of our other employees have done our devices. My last device that I bought after working for Swappa was the Galaxy S4, and I did the payment plan thing with that on T-Mobile, and I regret it. I wish I wouldn't have, but it was the only choice for us to get a device right then. But now I've realized that I can take my last device or a couple of my old devices and sell them and fund me purchasing the new device I want outright. It's so much better than having to sign a contract or on T-Mobile, put it on a payment plan. It's just so nice to be able to do that. So once you get it into your head that, hey, this is an option, that's what most people, they just don't understand. Like, they don't want to deal with having to sell a device and having to respond to questions, but it's so much cheaper in the long run. It's so much better.
Yeah, I actually think the M8 is the first phone I've bought that wasn't from Swappa for only my last 3 phones.
Oh yeah.
Because the Moto X I bought was off Swappa, and then the Note 2 I had before that was off Swappa. So yeah.
That's awesome to hear. I love hearing that. The first phone that he bought that wasn't on Swappa. Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, and and most of our people, several of our employees are people who have racked up quite a few sales. I mean, one of them, Nathan, he entered into a little duel with me and Cliff on Google Plus when we were looking at the devices which were associated with our Google accounts. So Cliff's posted his little like 7 devices. Cliff, however many you had, no, it was like 20 something, and then I posted mine. I was on a sideways screen, and then Nathan got on and he said, "I'm going to put you guys both to shame," and he posted like 9 pages of devices after devices, and all of these were devices. Almost every single one were ones that he'd bought or sold on Swappa. So I mean, it's just incredible.
The problem with that is the fact that I could do the same thing, but I have a device. Most of my devices, because I flash so many ROMs on there, will show up like 4 times or 5 times on your Google account. As different things.
That is true. I've got a lot of duplicates in there as well.
Yeah, the all access limit where they've changed it, it is killing me.
Yeah. Let's see. All right. Oh yes. Chuck, you got the Samsung Gear Live.
I do. It's right here on my wrist. I guess I can touch it and turn it on.
It's a good looking device.
Yeah, I've been quite happy with it.
Are you thinking about an aftermarket band for it yet?
No, actually, I'll be honest with you. I actually love the band that came with it.
Is it rubber? What is it?
Yeah, it's rubber, and it's got this little like fake like metal here that snaps in.
And other gears.
Yeah, I do have to say that it does take a little bit of time to get used to how the snap was, and I was kind of a little bit worried that the snap would fall off, but I haven't had any issues so far. So no, I actually kind of like the way it looks. Even when I've been out in the 100-degree weather and sweating like crazy, the band hasn't actually been too bad. My biggest fear with buying some other band is when you're outside and you're sweating to death, is the band going to be comfortable or not?
Right.
And this one so far has actually been extremely comfortable. And I've got big hands and wrists, and I've still got a few links left on it before I'd be at the end of it. So.
The Gear Live looks like you'd have to match the color so specific if you wanted to get because what I would be doing is I'd go for a metal band. That's what I prefer. Yeah,
well, plus I don't think it's a standard watch band. I think that's one of the things that people have said is it's not a standard. It kind of so the watch band is standard, but I don't know if you can. You probably can't see it. I'll take it off. It's a little bit easier. But where it actually meets the thing itself, it kind of widens out a little bit as it meets it. So it's not quite standard. Although I have seen people put standard bands on here, and you can kind of see them or not. But I'm sure that Samsung will be selling aftermarket bands to make a few more dollars. So.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be that guy. So how is it out in the sunlight?
I've seen a lot of people complaining that they can't see it out in the sunlight. I have not had a single issue. I can't see my M8 out in the sunlight. To save my life. But so far, I've only got it on the default brightness setting too. So I think which is 4. I haven't had a single issue yet seeing it in sunlight.
Yeah, I think it was the LG that I've seen just over and over again. It's like it's just useless outside in direct sunlight.
I was gonna say I've been using the XL, which is an LCD device, and then I switched to the Vivo as a stopgap in between, and it's a Super AMOLED display, and this is way better outside. I never really compared them because the XL was one of my first LCD devices, but the LCD is not nearly as easy to read in the sunlight for me. We got a question in the question and answer for you, Chuck.
They said, why did I go with the Samsung over the LG? And I'll tell you why I went with the Samsung, and then I'll ask anyone else why they would go with the LG, because LG seems to be the popular one right now. Everyone's like, oh, I got the LG G Watch. I got the LG G Watch. So why did I go with Samsung? A couple reasons. I love AMOLED. I think Samsung screens. The S5 screen, I actually saw it for the first time in person like a month ago. Oh my God, that screen is gorgeous. I mean, the colors just pop. It is amazing. So I like AMOLED. On a watch, especially with the AMOLED, I knew that I could use black watch faces. So watch faces conserve battery. Obviously, with the first generation Aware, battery is a concern. Although I do have to say, I can easily get 24 hours out of this thing. I've had it on since about 9 o'clock my time this morning, so I'm going on, 14 hours now, and I'm at 42% battery. And that was traveling all day and hammering this thing. I mean, I'm constantly using it. So I've actually been pretty shocked at the battery life. People say, oh, well, it's not 2 or 3 days. Look, I charge my phone every night. I got no problem charging my watch every night. I just don't. They sit right there. They both charge side by side. I personally don't have any issues. As long as I can get from the time I get up at about 6 o'clock in the morning until I go to bed at 11 or 12 o'clock at night, if I can get through that whole day with a phone or a watch, I'm happy as could be. Yeah. I don't need any more than a day. So AMOLED screen, really, really nice. Also, the gear, the LG G Watch, I haven't personally seen it, but from the pictures I saw, it just looked a lot boxier. Yeah. It looked a lot fatter, a lot boxier, and I mean, it's probably hard to see on my wrist, but I mean, it's kind of sleek. I mean, this thing fits really, really well. It fits right on your wrist. It looks like any other watch I'd wear on my wrist. I've been extremely happy with it, and I know Samsung devices. I've had Samsung devices before. I know people say, hey, I hate Samsung. I've never had any issues with Samsung, so I'm familiar with them. Plus, my wife has the Gear, the original Gear, which she still uses to this day.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I know, amazingly enough. But, she still uses it to this day, so I guess that's the biggest reasons. I think AMOLED and the bigger screen was probably the biggest reason, and just the way that the Samsung Watch looked over the G Watch. But I haven't played with the G Watch, so I honestly can't say. If I played with the G Watch, then my mind might change. I don't know, but based on what I saw online, I went with the Samsung.
See, that's what I was honestly looking at the whole time we were looking at the mock-ups before they were even released. Is I thought that the Samsung Gear Live just looked like it had a better shape, and the G Watch just looked like a little mini iPhone for your wrist. But honestly, I think at this point I would choose the G Watch just because I would love to have the freedom to change the watch band to a dressy. A metal band, and I have big wrists, so I mean I have huge wrists. Like I just sold the Martian Notifier because it's on the last, and it's a standard watch band. It's on the last little rung on the watch, and it kind of pops out and sticks. So I really I think that I would go with the one that's more customizable, just sticking with the spirit of Android.
Yeah, I think I'd have to second that. I'm kind of a diva, I've got customized. Watch band on my Pebble, so I think I definitely have to go with the G Watch. But I didn't realize the contour that the Gear had. That's pretty sharp.
Yeah, I gotta say it kind of contours your wrist really, really well. Of course, I mean honestly for me, everything's a holdover right now until the 360.
Yeah.
And I think most people will probably feel that way.
Pretty much everyone.
Yeah, I want something now I could play with, but. I mean, as long as the 360 is not like $500, I'm going to get a 360 when it comes out.
Yeah, shameless plug. Swappa really likes wearables, so we'll gladly watches.
Yeah, not that anyone from Moto is actually watching this, but I'll happily demo one for you. I'll happily do a review on here even for you. So you want to send me one.
Well. Chuck, you'll have to get in line behind the rest of us. For myself, I'm actually I'm really eager to get my hands on the G, just because I'm so excited about the G3 phone, which it seems to be kind of paired with. But none have arrived here in my mailbox yet, but hopefully soon.
So I see we've got a question for me, so I can go ahead and grab that. So it's asking, how do I think Wear and Glass functionality overlap, and are they competing? So if any of my Glass family is watching, I want to apologize in advance. Minus the camera, I believe that the the Wear is more useful. I've just seen more uses out of Android Wear than I've had with Glass. Don't get me wrong, Glass is wonderful. It does exactly what I need it to do, but the Wear does what you don't even know you want it to do. The Google Now integration is just wonderful. And I mean, for a version 1 of a device or a product, it looks really promising. So my wish is they roll most of that over into Glass, which through the grapevine is supposed to be coming. So that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing too right now is a watch is more socially acceptable than Glass. I mean, I think the biggest problem right now is what you're seeing is a lot of people have a problem with Glass. No one has a problem with you wearing a watch.
Right, and then that's a big thing. So I live in the mountains of Kentucky. So until recently, I've been a Glass explorer since late last year. Until probably the last month, I've had several people that would come up to me and, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Do you have some kind of eye condition? Why do you have to wear that? And it's not been until recently in the last month that it's got a little more, publicity that people are actually, oh, hey, that's Glass. It's more of, I hope I don't offend you, but what's on your face? So yeah, that's a big thing. A watch is definitely more socially acceptable. So it's already, strides ahead of Glass in that aspect.
Side note, have you ever had anyone walk up to you and say, are those the new Apple glasses?
I have not. No, I have got the Samsung Glass. I have been asked that. And I get Google goggles. I hear that a lot. So that one's always fun to explain.
Does glasses bother you? Are those the Google glasses?
Yeah.
Is that your droid? That's what I hear when I hear that. Hey, you got a droid. No, I don't. Never owned one. Thank you. Thank you for not thinking it's an iPhone.
Well, speaking of Samsung and iPhones, something I tweeted out. I took a trip across to the East Coast about 2 weeks ago, and when I was on the plane, I was actually absolutely amazed. It's the first time I've ever been, in an airport, plane, public setting, where there was more Samsung devices than iPhones.
Really?
I was absolutely shocked. I looked around. Everyone had an S3, S4, S5, or a Note 2. I probably counted 24 of them, and I think I might have counted 6 iPhones.
Yeah, I can really second on that. I spent some time in London, and they don't do Apple over there. It's amazing. You're sitting on the metro, and there's notes are the big thing over there. Everybody likes the flip cases with the big screens, and it was so refreshing to see everybody with Note 2s and big Android devices. They've got it figured out.
Oh man, my wife and I did New York City on the ball drop this last year, and I'll tell you what. I mean, I don't know a politically correct way to say this, but there's a lot of Asians that come over to see the ball drop here for some reason, and we were in the square in Times Square with 1.8 million people. I mean, literally in one square, and it's in 16 square blocks, but we're all packed into one place. And I think I probably saw 8 iPhones the entire time. Everyone had a Samsung phone and a lot of iPads. Everyone who had a tablet there, it was an iPad, which I was a little surprised there were people with tablets there. But yeah, I mean Samsung devices with the flip cases, like you were saying.
Yep.
And I think that's just something that comes with buying a device direct from the manufacturer. You're more likely to get their direct manufacturing thing. But so many Samsung devices, and I did get to see a Lavazolo, which I had never seen in person. And what was the other one? The Intel. There was an Intel K. I don't know. It's similar to the Lavazolo, but I can't think of the name right now. But some devices that I've only read about online. But yeah, I was very, very surprised not to see more iPhones.
So back to the Gear Live.
Yeah.
I definitely am pretty happy with it. I would highly recommend anyone who has been on the fence about Wear, go get one. I don't think you can actually try one anywhere yet. I think I've seen that Best Buy in stores, even the ones that have like the Samsung stores in them, the Samsung reps are like, what? Huh?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
I don't think you can try them anywhere yet, but just go buy one. You really, really will like it. I've been amazed at how much I've found myself not even taking my phone out of my pocket anymore, just doing everything right on my wrist. It's pretty cool, and it seems to do a pretty good job of figuring out actually what I want to see. And now that we can have custom watch faces, because the ones that come with the gear, they kind of stink.
Yeah.
I think there's like 7 or 8 of them, and none of them are really that good. But now we're starting to see some custom ones, so it's starting to become pretty nice.
Cool. And and comment on the. There's been a picture floating around of somebody who, within the first couple days of owning their Gear Live, it took a chunk out of their charging port.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't have the charger down here. It's up in my room, but basically, if you can see the back of the device, it's kind of like a charger that snaps on, and there are 2 little plastic prongs that snap in. The thing is anyone who's been around technology for any amount of time knows that these charging cradles, you generally put it on one side and snap it onto the other side, and one of the sides kind of has a little bit of give where you take it off. And if you kind of abide by that, then you won't have any issues at all. I've charged this thing now, I guess I've had it a week, so 7 times without any issues. I mean, obviously, if you're smashing the charging port on and smashing it off, yeah, you probably will break it. I mean, it is just literally a little plastic nub, that you put into the charging thing. So you do got to be a little bit careful. But if you're familiar with technology at all, you kind of know how to put a charging port on and off, you'll probably be fine. That's not to say that those people that had those issues, there could very well be defective units. It is kind of a very, very thin little plastic knobby where it snaps in and out. Highly probable that there are some defective units. I mean, especially when you're manufacturing, hundreds of thousands of these things, the likelihood of having a few defects is pretty high. But I mean, as long as you're careful with it and you kind of put the charger on like you would anything else, you'll be fine.
Okay, interesting. And I'm not. How does the charging port work? Because it's not a micro USB, right? It won't work with just any charger, right?
So it's a port that snaps onto the back of here, but the actual connection into that charging port is micro USB.
Okay.
So yeah, it is a micro USB port, but you do have to have the back plate onto the watch. It's kind of hard to see, but right above the heart rate monitor, there's like 4 little prongs that it attaches onto, and that's where the actual charging thing is. If you've ever had a Gear, especially the original Gear, which kind of had the whole case that went around the watch, it's that same idea, but it's not the whole case that goes around the watch.
Right. Okay.
So, hey Chuck, can you give us a little bit of idea of what kind of functionality you've gotten out of it? What have you been running on the watch?
Sure. So I've just been using, notifications is a big thing. It can actually show any notification from your phone using the accessibility settings. So any notification you get on your phone, you can see on your watch. And if the notification on the phone has like the quick action, so for example, like Gmail has like the reply all or the delete or archive, those will show up natively on the phone. On the watch and let you use those functions. So it was kind of a nice way of, if the app on the phone supports rich notifications with actions, those will natively work on the phone, on the watch. I keep saying phone. On the watch itself. Most of my notifications are Gmail, Twitter. I'm using Tweetings right now, which I think is the only Twitter app I know of right now that supports Gear natively, or supports Android Wear. And what I mean by that is, so if the app doesn't support Wear, then you'll see all your notifications kind of grouped together on the watch itself, and you can't really do anything with the notifications. But if it supports the Android Wear, like for example tweetings, then I can actually see each of my tweets, and I can action each of the individual tweets themselves on the phone. Or like Gmail, you'll see that you've got like 3 emails, and if you click on it, it'll expand the 3 emails, and then you can, like take this email, delete this email, reply to this email. So if it's apparently not very hard to hook into the Wear API, but you can do more things than just the notification itself. So Gmail works pretty well. Google Plus works okay. They do have some work to do because I can see like the fact that someone commented on something on Google Plus, but you can't actually see the comment unless I open it up on my phone.
Yeah, same thing with the phone notification. I always thought that was ridiculous.
Yeah, or like if you're part of a group and someone posts to the community, you can see that someone posted the community, but you can't see anything else. So they've still definitely got a long way to go to get the notifications. Hangouts is probably the best thing that integrates well with the phone because you can see the most recent notification. You can click on it or swipe it, and then you can see actually the entire Hangout just like you would on the phone. So either the Hangout or the SMS, and then of course you can swipe and reply with voice. Voice for me has actually been pretty good. I've used it quite a bit, and it's only gotten a couple words wrong. It's shockingly fast for a watch and shockingly accurate.
So is the voice going through the same thing that like the Google keyboard does, where it actually bounces? It actually uses data to hear what you're saying?
That I don't actually know. If it does, it's really fast to get that back.
Okay. Yeah, I know, because I know I've had issues with some of the early Android keyboard updates with the Google Voice search version of the voice talk to text on the Google keyboard, where if you don't have a data connection, it will just say it couldn't recognize what you were saying.
Yeah, well, let's find out. Let's turn on airplane mode and actually see what happens. Of course, turning on airplane mode turned off my Bluetooth. All right, let's see. All right. Okay, Google. Start Hangouts. No, actually, it recognized. It didn't recognize it correctly.
But it did recognize it.
But it did recognize it. Yeah, it recognized my voice. Of course, it's currently trying to dial a number, and I'm in airplane mode, so it's kind of not too happy about that. But yeah, so no, it must have some sort of offline stuff going on, because I'm in airplane mode over here, and I've got no data, and it definitely recognized not 100% what I said, but it did. It was able to actually parse what I said.
Okay. And my burning question about the Android Wear in general is, what can it do aside from, I'm assuming, display a watch face on its own? Like if you turn your phone off, what can the Wear do?
Nothing. I mean, it's pretty much dependent upon being connected to your phone, because kind of the entire point of it is driving your phone from your wrist. So if you were to disconnect it from your phone, like you could turn it in airplane mode, which would turn off the connection from your phone, and not really a whole lot of anything.
So my big question is on the notifications. I know you said Hangouts was great. So having myself having a Pebble, having Glass, and then of course the phone it's running off of. If I get a Hangout notification, it's all 3. They don't know if they've read each other. It's just a mess. I've heard that they improved on that. Is that true? So basically, if you read on your watch that you've read a Hangout message on your watch, will it clear it from your phone?
Yeah. So okay. Any notification you clear on the watch will clear on your phone immediately. That's any notification. So Google Now, like if you've got, for example, I've got up here, my sister's flying into town tomorrow, so it's got her flight information on here. So if I were to swipe that off on my watch, it would swipe it off out of Google Now, just like you were swiping out of Google Now.
That's huge. With the Pebble, it's not quite that nice. It's more of a view than actual interaction. So Gmail or Hangouts, it'll hit my phone and my watch, and it's just a real pain.
Yep. So, now, the biggest thing I found with the watch is So if you swipe, I guess that's to the left, where you can actually do things like, for example, if someone sends you an SMS, you can reply with voice. If you reply with voice, it'll reply, but I would expect it to then go back like to the watch face or something, but instead it goes back like to the screen that's like where you can click on the reply. So like goes back to the previous screen, which is a little bit confusing because you're like, well, what did it just do? It sent it, but you're kind of like, I would expect it to maybe go back to the SMS or go back to the watch face. Or there's definitely some inconsistencies when you do an action where it goes next. Because like if you delete an email, then it deletes that email and it'll go back to the watch face. But if you reply to an SMS, it just goes back to that screen with the button that says reply. So there is some inconsistencies on where you get in the notification schemes depending upon what you do.
Well, I have the Qualcomm Talk, and one of the really frustrating things about it is with their last software, their last major software update, they added the Talk is what they called it, and what it was is you've always been able to do quick replies on to your SMS that come in, so you just set a list of like 10 quick replies. I'm in a meeting, I'll call you back, or anything like that, and you can go through your contact list from the device and choose to send one of those text messages out on your own. Well, they added the ability to just voice to text with the Talk, which is cool because there was no features before that suggested that the device even had a microphone. But they did add that ability there, and you could only do it, even though everything I do goes through Hangouts, it would still only let you reply to SMS messages. You could only go through, reply and send text messages from your wrist. You couldn't actually do anything with Hangouts. All you could do is see the notification. So that was kind of a buzzkill to me.
Yeah, something interesting. So, obviously it has OK Google. It's not OK Google now. It's OK Google. So I guess that's so that you don't say OK Google now and your phone starts buzzing and then your watch starts buzzing.
Motorola is the only phone that does OK Google now.
Well, don't you have to say OK Google now with the always listening?
Well, those are the Motorola devices, but not with the Nexus. Is just OK Google.
The latest update to Google Search has the always.
It's OK Google, I think.
Is it OK Google?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I guess I'm so used to the Motorola ones. I've been saying OK Google now.
I still do that with Glass. I had the X, and with Glass, I'll do OK Google now instead of OK Glass, and I feel like a doofus. So.
But one of the things you were talking about, Tony, was the replying to SMS. So with OK Google, you can say send text message to someone, but you can't say send Hangout to someone or send message to someone. So you can send an SMS, but you can't start a Hangout, which is I've seen a lot of people complaining about that. And so, there's definitely some inconsistencies and some things you can't yet do.
What kind of interaction do you have with Hangouts other than reply then?
Nothing.
Is that it?
Yeah. So you can reply, but and maybe this is I just haven't figured it out yet, but I thought that if I had the Hangout like active on the screen, I could just say reply and it would reply. But I actually, so far, I've always had to swipe over and hit the reply button before it would take my voice. So I think you got it's a version 1 of a device for us right now and for the tech people. It's not, so it's like being a Glass Explorer. You expect that, you're going to get continuous updates, things are going to change, things are going to be different. So for version 1, it's awesome. But yeah, there's definitely still some things to go.
Interesting. Well, I would hope that in a future update we'd be able to actually browse through our Hangouts that are on our phone. That's just me. I know very few people would really care about that, but that's one thing I would like to see. But for now, I'll take just being able to reply to them because that's going to be the major thing.
Yeah.
I use Hangouts for everything. Literally, the only people that I text message with are my mother, who has an iPhone, and a couple other people that I know with iPhones. So it's really frustrating not to be able to do that from the watch I have right now.
Yeah, I don't send a whole lot of text messages either. So yeah, I'm really hoping that a future update is like send message to, and it will let you choose like Hangout, SMS, much better integration. One other thing I have seen, I've seen a few people complaining that they couldn't send text messages through the watch. Apparently because when they said send text and they sent the text, the pop-up actually occurred on their phone to ask what default application they wanted to use for SMS. And so they're like, my SMSs are never sending because the phone had no idea how to send them.
Okay, yeah, that's understandable. All right, guys. Well, we're getting on about time to wrap up here. Thank you so much, Lucas, for joining us. We really appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
Awesome to hear about the Boneyard and anything new that's going on in the tech community. And great to finally have a Glass Explorer's opinion on the show. Hopefully you can come back and share with us again.
For sure.
Fred, you were quiet tonight, but we appreciate you being here. What you did say sounded awesome on those new headphones, for sure. And Chuck, as always, a pleasure. We really enjoyed having you on the show and having your wonderful voice coming through your very expensive microphone.
No, not it looks expensive, but actually not very expensive. So.
All right, guys. Well, it was great getting your opinions on the tech news of the day, and everybody who's watching or will watch, we really appreciate you viewing the show. Thanks for joining us for the boat, and we'll see you next week.